A glass tipped over on the edge of the sink. The hollow drip of water falling into nothing. There was no one left to hear it. The first betrayal doesn't hurt the most. It's the last one. The one that confirms the pattern. That seals the idea that yes, you are forgettable. I faded from people's minds like an old address. One they type by accident and delete without thought. There were no goodbyes, no fights, just a slow erasure, like mold creeping across white walls. My voice still existed, but no one heard it. It bounced off backs, fell to the ground, like a child tugging on an adult's sleeve, unseen. One day I realized, it wasn't that I spoke too little. It was that I had stopped expecting to be heard. The pain of being forgotten doesn't come from one moment. It accumulates, it drills, it carves holes in places where there used to be ground. And you start living inside those holes. You decorate the walls of absence. Make a home inside emotional caverns no one visits. That's where I began to die. Not by choice, by adaptation. And that's also where something inside me decided not to accept the end. Even with no one around. Even with dry eyes. Even with trust shattered into pieces too small to be called shards. It was there the question was born. What is left of me when everyone is gone? I became the keeper of silence, the one who watches but doesn't interrupt, the one who hears everyone else's name being called and pretends it doesn't hurt to be left out. I wore that role like a second skin, walked through rooms without making a sound, slid into group conversations like a polite shadow. I became the kind of person people trust, to disappear, to be available but never visible, to understand others' silence, even when no one understood mine. I mastered the art of stepping back, of exiting gracefully, on cue. No drama, no noise. Just the soft creak of a door in the distance, as if apologizing for existing. The keeper of silence has social value. They hold space for everyone else's emotional leaks. But the cost? No one ever asks if they're okay. And when someone finally looks, it's too late. You've already hidden too well. You've already become an echo. You've learned to smile with your eyes down. People love those who don't ask for much, but they forget. You needed them too. In that invisible role, I became skilled at vanishing from myself, even in my own memories. I started telling stories where I was just a background figure, my name only appearing in the end credits and misspelled. That's when I realized being forgotten by others always begins with forgetting yourself. And my role, up until then, was to protect what remained, even if no one knew something had been lost. In the house where I grew up, there was an attic. The door was locked when I was 12. No one looked for the key. No one explained. They just accepted that it was no longer accessible. Sometimes at night, I'd climb the stairs and press my ear to the door. Silence. But a thick kind of silence. Almost alive, as if something inside was still breathing. Forgotten, but not dead. Over time, the attic became a symbol, not just of what was left behind, but of what we're forbidden to remember. And then I understood. I had become that attic. A sealed-off room inside myself, with pictures no one looked at anymore, furniture covered in emotional dust, noises that didn't dare turn into sound. I carried that space with me everywhere. That's where I kept the names of those who promised to stay. The hugs that melted into apologies. The birthdays no one remembered. The messages seen but never answered. The forever-sounding promises that didn't survive a single winter. That's also where I stored my trust. Folded it neatly, packed it in boxes labeled, "Do not touch again." I stopped offering pieces of myself. Started offering mirrors, so others would only see their own reflection. The bigger that attic grew, the more I withdrew. Not out of choice, but because I no longer knew how to let anyone in. It wasn't just fear, it was architecture, a survival structure. If everything that enters you ends up leaving, better to keep the doors shut. But closed doors also keep out the light, and it's in the dark that pain grows silently. Until one day I heard something from inside that attic. Not a memory, but a sound of something trying to be found. I started laughing too much, too loud, too hard, especially in moments when I wanted to disappear. It was an old trick. The more noise you make, the less people notice the silence inside. I became a joke of myself. I'd beat others to the punch, make them laugh before I had the chance to cry. I learned how to entertain, as if my presence had to earn its place with performance. I turned trust into sarcasm, pain into irony, fear into rehearsed lines like, "I'm just not the emotional type. Don't worry about me. I actually prefer being alone." Lies of protection, rituals of retreat, internal mantras I whispered like spells to keep people far enough away. Sometimes it was subtler. I'd disappear from conversations, leave texts unanswered, ghost people before they ghosted me. It was like I needed to prove, over and over again, that no one really cared. So when they left, I could say, "See? I already knew." This internal noise is cunning. It convinces you that avoiding pain is more important than being alive. It replaces windows with alarms, turns every new affection into a potential threat. And so I started sabotaging the few connections that dared to reach me. I doubted compliments, dismissed gestures of care. I told myself, they're just being polite, or they'll leave soon too. The thing about not trusting anyone is that you stop trusting your own instincts. Everything feels like danger. Everything feels temporary. And you begin to feel like an unwanted guest inside your own body. That was my noise, not a scream, but a constant frequency of alert, as if I lived with an internal alarm that never shuts off, and no one noticed, because on the outside, I kept smiling. It still hurts because I buried the last version of myself that believed people would stay. And sometimes she knocks on the attic door, eyes swollen, but still hopeful. This pain isn't about what I lost. It's about what I had to abandon just to survive. The softness, the surrender, the ability to trust without rehearsing how to leave. It still hurts because even when I'm surrounded, I feel alone. Because I trained myself to expect abandonment. And now I don't know what to do when someone stays. The pain isn't just that others forgot me. It's that I started forgetting myself. Forgetting what it felt like to exist without fear, to walk without waiting for the worst, to hug someone without bracing for the pull away. And deep down, it hurts because I want to return, not to what was, but to what might still be, if I find the courage to open the attic again. I want to find the version of me who used to wait for letters, who replied with her whole heart, who didn't see people as threats but as bridges. Trust isn't something you relearn all at once. It's a ritual, a tiny gesture, a silence that doesn't hurt. It's someone who stays, even when you don't know how to ask, even when you try to push them away, even when you say you don't have to care, and they don't leave, they don't invade, they simply remain. Sometimes that person is someone else, sometimes it's you, coming back for yourself, returning for what was left behind, to hold the hand of the version that still believes, to unlock the attic and turn on the light. If you've ever learned to disappear with grace, write in the comments, "I still wait to be remembered without vanishing first." And if that truth lives in you, follow this channel. Here, silence has a name.